The Grift is my best trio base yet, with online and offline raid protection. It has 2 bunkered external TCs with storage to help you distribute your loot. It also has the most insane funneled compound I've ever designed, with nasty head glitch peaks everywhere. There's plenty of storage space for all of your loot, and loads of bedrooms to respawn in. The Grift has strong peaks all over its roof, with this brand new Scissor Peek created by Spinky. These give you an incredible head glitch to see everything outside of compound, with a footprint that fits basically anywhere, and a build cost that can easily be afforded by a dedicated solo. I'm confident you're gonna have some amazing wipes out of this base. With that out of the way, let's get right into the tour. This tour starts off a little bit different than most because we have some bunkered external TCs here. You can fit a couple of large boxes in here and store things to distribute your loot out of your main base a little bit. You can also see the upkeep on each of the 2 TCs is super affordable. Breaking the twigs seals it up, and there are absolutely no gaps to exploit. To disconnect the TC, we'll just make this simple twig build out and then place a roof ramp at the end. If we get raided and our main TC is gone, we'll have to do this to replace it, and then we can reconnect it with a frame after we've placed our main TC again. Next, we'll head into one of our 2 gatehouses, where you can see we have some Petrico peaks that line up perfectly with this furnace wall. If we make our way into the gatehouse, we can actually see this section is connected to a bedroom that has additional Petrico peaks. There are a couple of small boxes in the top of each of these, and then the angles below again line up perfectly with your furnace wall. If your compound gets breached, you're basically invisible sitting in here, but you have peaks that are perfectly lined up to watch that breach. Raiders will either have to spend another 5 rockets to break the furnace, or have the ladders to ladder over directly into the line of sight of your peaks and your turrets. Either way, it's not a good situation for them. If you guys have been enjoying the content recently, please make sure you drop a like and sub to the channel. We're so close to 100,000 subscribers, and that's honestly been just a lifelong dream of mine, so I would really appreciate it. If we make our way back out into the compound, you can see that we've got additional Petricos here on our funnel section and some shotgun traps. Heading along the funnel, we have an identical section on the other side. We can also make our way into the funnel bedrooms, where we have beds for the whole team, as well as space for lockers and a large battery. These peaks create a perfect crossfire with all of the Petricos that we looked at earlier, so there are no missing angles in your compound. This base is symmetrical by 2, so we can head into the mobility on either side of the base here and make our way up to the 2nd floor loot rooms. You can see we have a couple of turrets and electric furnaces that overlook all of our loot storage. This floor is super spacious, and you can feel free to customize it however fits your group. Next, we'll head down into our starter unit, where we have our tier 3 workbench, more boxes, sleeping bags, and anything else that your group needs. Again, because this base is symmetrical by 2, we can go up the mobility chute on either side of the base to make our way to the bedroom floor. Inside, we can see that we have 4 beds and 4 lockers here, as well as these pods outside that have heli peaks that drop down into additional bedrooms. They have these covered peaks right here that basically hide all of your movement and make you a really hard target to hit from something like a raid base, but give you great angles into your compound. I've defended a lot of online raids from funnel wall bases, and the thing that wins us the raid every single time is not defending from shooting floor. It's by playing off of the funnel wall and using all of the Petrico peaks. We'll step up into our roof peaks that are on either side of the base, and after we've made sure the coast is clear, we can go up this garage door, which leads us onto our roof that kind of doubles as a shooting floor. But again, because it's a funnel wall base, shooting floors aren't something you really use to defend a raid. You can see we use a lot of these triangle roof peaks, which give us a great head glitch on long angles. We also have these bed pods here that look directly down onto the breach. The more interesting side of this roof are these scissor peeks that were created by Spinky. You can see we can crouch on these roof ramps to create really strong head glitches for far angles, but also look directly down into compound where those breaches would be. You probably shouldn't fully stand on them like I'm doing here, but crouching up and down those roofs will give you plenty of angles. We'll start off by building a 1x1 with a double door on the front. This is super easy to get down anywhere with even just a couple of resources. We'll put our TC on the right side here and make sure that you always code lock it. You can place down any starter deployables you need here. To expand out, we'll go 2 triangles to the right and then 3 squares off of that. We'll wall in the perimeter of all of the squares except for this last spot, which gets a double door. After we've got the double door down, we can put a ceiling on the whole base. We'll finish off our starter by putting an airlock in the front here. Just make sure that this single door frame and the ceiling above it are in wood, because we'll hatchet them out later. Machetes are perfect for hatcheting out wood because they don't require any BPs or a workbench. If we place a double door frame here with a double door facing outward, this creates another airlock if all 3 of these doors are open. can build a loot room next to our TC room by placing a half-height shelf in it. We can also use that half-height shelf to build twig through the wall to put a shelf in our TC compartment. Between just these two loot rooms, it should give you plenty of storage to get through the early game. We'll use that final square as a furnace room until we expand out of the starter. Once we've done that and we have electric furnaces or large furnaces up, we'll also make that into a loot room. I'm also placing double door frames down on every socket that doesn't currently have one. This is just so then when we get garage doors, we can place them down. Alright, now that we have our boxes and our furnaces down, let's go over to this final square here and place our workbench. This will fit our tier 1, our tier 2, and eventually our tier 3. Base Punch didn't make a big deal about this, but in the last update, they made it so then you could put 2 small boxes under a tier 2 workbench. Setting up your deployables like this leaves you plenty of room for bags. And as soon as you get a tier 2 workbench and tech tree to garage door, make sure you place them down on every socket. Upgrading the TC room and your loot room will dramatically increase your raid cost once you have garage doors. And just like that, the starter is complete. Expanding from our starter to our second floor with mobility couldn't be any easier. We'll come to the triangle opposite of our temporary airlock and just turn that into honeycomb. We'll then enable our two-way symmetry and come to each of the 4 squares and honeycomb those as well. As you can see, what I did on this side is already done on the other side. We'll then come to these spots right here and place 2 triangle foundations, a full wall, and a door frame. We'll use this half wall as a jump up on either side for now. Then we can wall in the entire perimeter of the second floor. Right where the single door frames are, we'll place a triangle floor frame. This will eventually be our mobility to third floor. After doing that, we can put a ceiling on the entire second floor. Heading inside, we'll find these squares next to each of the mobility chutes and we'll make a loot room in them. When symmetry's on, it's already done the same on the other side. Coming to each of these triangles next to the mobility, we can place a shelf. I'll then place double door frames on every socket and get garage doors on those. Where the triangle floor frame is, we'll place a jump up, but we don't really have a good way to get to it, so once you have a furnace to spare, add an additional half wall and a ceiling here to finish the honeycomb. Then we can add a single door and a furnace here, which will act as our jump up. Another double door frame goes onto the mobility chute, and we'll use a double door on this one, not a garage door, just for now. This will ensure people don't go deep through our roof. We'll put 6 boxes in each of our loot rooms. Then we'll head over to the triangle opposite of our starter jump up and place a few furnaces here. You could also use this spot for a locker. In the triangle sections on opposite corners, we can fit 3 electric furnaces and a turret. We'll go ahead and repeat the same on the other side. It's time to stop using the temporary wooden airlock. We'll head back into our starter and use a machete to chop out the single door frame and the roof tile above it. Just make sure you have a friend standing outside so they can check that the coast is clear. You can then replace it with a full wall. We can pick up the double door inside and create a temporary twig buildup outside so we can place this shelf. We'll delete the twig outside and replace the door with a garage door. Our second floor is looking pretty good. We can also rotate this loot room wall whichever way you prefer. You can have the hard side facing the loot room or the mobility chute depending on what you value more. We now have a 2-floor base with roof access and multiple entry points. At this point, the amount of storage and furnaces should easily get you through the early to mid game. I've gone ahead and upgraded everything to its final grade. The TLDR is that you upgrade everything basically to metal besides double door frames, shelves, and jump ups. Then our early starter can basically all be upgraded to HQM when you get the resources. You don't have to do all of this now. I'm just showing you because in the rest of the video, I'll build in the final grades. For our external TCs, I'm going to show you two methods. The traditional mini Satori method, which is much easier, and then the freehand bunker method, which will give you an additional 16 rockets worth of offline raid costs. We'll start with a square and triangle off of the main base, and then we'll build 5 squares out. Leave the last square and destroy the rest of the build out. And we'll head back to the base with triangle half moons. Off of the last triangle, we'll place 2 squares and 2 triangles. We can upgrade this triangle to sheet metal and the rest of our funnel section to stone. We'll destroy the majority of our twig build out here, but we can actually leave this triangle. We'll build 3 squares off of it and then end it with 3 triangles. We'll upgrade the right 2 to sheet metal and the left 1 to stone. At this point, we can delete all of the twig. We'll build our TC compartment here in sheet metal. And we'll use double half walls here to ensure that the disconnectable method works. We'll finish off building our airlock in just stone. We'll finish this part up by putting a ceiling on. If you've done it right, this is what it should look like. We'll put a TC in the far triangle and then a couple of window frames over it. Putting glass windows on these will give us 7 rockets of raid protection with a single door on the front. Heading back to our funnel section, we'll enclose our battery pod in sheet metal. We can then build frames to reconnect our external TC to our funnel section. To disconnect the TC in the event of a raid, we'll just place a twig foundation and a twig roof here. After we've replaced our main TC, we can easily replace the frame. Next, we'll take a look at how to build the bunkered external TCs. We'll start with the same build out, a triangle and 3 squares. We'll then end with 3 triangles, but this time we'll delete the middle one. At this point, we can upgrade these directly to sheet metal, but if you only have stone now, that's fine too. Put walls on the sides of these and leave the centers open. We can place our TC here with a single door frame on the front, and then a shelf goes on the right side. You can put a couple boxes here now, or you can wait until the bunker's built. They're super easy to place after. Next, we'll head to either side and grab a square foundation. We'll crouch so then it just barely clips under the existing foundations right up against them. There should be a slight bit of angle to this, and the stability of this wall should be 77 to 79%. As you can see, there's a little gap at the top, which is exactly what we're looking for. If we do this small build out here, we can get rid of the square that we had and replace it with a triangle. We'll upgrade that to HQM, and then we'll cover the gap by building a frame here. You don't want it to close the bunker, so try wiggling around until you get it off of the actual roof tile. I'll leave a link in the description to Crow's video on these freehand bunkers. He does a really good job of being thorough and concise. And then placing a double door frame inside for additional stability. I will head back over to the funnel section and again build out the battery compartment in sheet metal. We can connect these the same way with frames. And just like that, your free-handed bunkered externals are done. Super easy to open them, just use a twig roof like this. And then if you want to disconnect them, we'll just do this twig buildup off of the pod. Just delete the ramp to replace the frames. In real wipes, I'll even upgrade these externals entirely into armor, giving us an additional 30 rockets worth of bunkered storage. Make sure you repeat the same steps on the other side of the base. Let's finish off the funnel section's bedroom by walling in the perimeter and adding a couple of single door frames. It should look just like this when you're done. Then we can add a ceiling on the entire section. On each of the corners, we'll add a half-height Patrico Peek and put a window frame over it. The sheet metal section is where we'll put our large batteries and a locker. You can put additional garage doors or double doors on the additional sockets here. This will buff the raid cost to your battery and your locker kits. To finish out the inside, we'll add some beds here, and optionally you can also add some boxes if you need the extra storage. In the actual funnel itself, we'll place some shotgun traps so then if raiders try to rotate throughout your compound, they can't. I've personally seen these work really well during online raids when people drop down and don't realize that they're in there. It forces raiders to completely freeze and ask their teammates for ladders, or they just walk right into the shotgun traps and die. Next, we'll start building our gatehouses and compound bedrooms. Place a square with a triangle on either side. Use 2 half walls and 2 triangle floors. Create this enclosed Patrico Peek. We'll do the same on the other side. Remember, you can put a couple of small boxes in here for storage as well. We'll put a double door frame on the front and then bring some half walls up to put some extra boxes. It's way easier to place the boxes before you enclose this section. You can either use a double door or a garage door on this. To build our gatehouse, we'll build off another square and then 2 triangle foundations on either side. Should look like this. We'll then place 4 window frames down and a couple of double door frames. These windows here are where the Petricos are going to go, so we'll place a half wall on the outside with a floor tile. We'll place some double door frames here for some chain link to guard our turrets a little bit. We'll then add some half walls to the top of the entire gatehouse and put a ceiling on it. Section it off with low walls and then add your turrets in. Low walls allow the turret to see over top of it while still mitigating the splash damage. Half walls would completely cut off the line of sight. We can place our window embrasures and our chain link next, and then we'll wrap up the gatehouses by placing barricades on top. It should look like this after everything's wrapped up. Now, optionally, you can connect your gatehouse to your bedroom, which allows you to rotate throughout the compound with a little more cover. It also lets you respawn in the bedroom and make your way into the gatehouse to view that Petrico Peek. Now that we have our gatehouses and our funnel pods done, we can set up our compound and large furnaces. Our compound couldn't be easier to place. We'll head over to each of the gatehouses and line the wall up like this. All you have to do is alt-look to make sure that there's about the right amount of space for the second wall to fit. It's super forgiving and really easy to do. Then to create our furnace wall, we'll just stand in the single door frame. I don't think there's any way to mess up placing the large furnace here. And it creates an airtight furnace wall. We'll just repeat the same steps on the other sides of the base, making sure to alt-look so the wall placement is perfect. The last thing we have to do here is place some barricades on our funnel section. Just make sure that they don't touch the sheet metal triangle because we'll use that for a turret pod later. Our last main floor is our bedroom floor. We'll start by creating a windowed section here, and then these little triangle pods on the outside of the base. We'll place our heli peak right here, which is a ramp in front of a single door frame, and then we can place down some beds. We'll put frames on either side and then a window in the middle. A wall goes right here, which will enclose our bedroom eventually. Place a ceiling on the entire floor, except for the 2 triangles where the mobility chutes are. For those sections, we'll place a half wall and 2 triangle floors off of it. Place a single door frame and a double door frame on either side. We can then enclose it with some half walls and ceiling tiles. This section you can leave open, but for aesthetics, I decided to seal it up. Sue me. We'll then place down double door frames and garage doors on every socket. Place a locker and a couple beds right in front of this garage door here. And then additional lockers on these sections. I would also recommend adding shotgun traps to the mobility, and that's basically it for the bedroom floor. Our roof is pretty simple and straightforward. We'll place frames on every one of these outside sockets. We'll then use half walls and low walls on these sections and a triangle roof. I would highly recommend upgrading it to one of the build skins like brick, adobe, or shipping container. They have a way smaller hitbox and offer up a lot more angles. We can then create a bed pod on the square section. We'll add some half walls to the top for a turret pod and then enclose it with a double door. You can either use a half wall or a low wall in this section. The low wall will give you better angles, but it also leaves you way more exposed on your rooftop. If you don't have the build skins, it might be a good idea though, because you'll get less angles out of those triangle peaks. The last part of this roof are the scissor peaks created by Spinky. We'll create 2 triangle roofs here and upgrade them to different grades. That'll leave a gap in the middle, and then we can build some frames up from the outside. This is order specific though, so you have to place those roof tiles before the frames come up. Then we can easily add some double doors into them, which create the scissor peak. This is a crazy head glitch, and people at any type of distance away from your base will not be able to spray back at you, but you're crouched, making it super easy to spray at them. In our bed pod, we'll go ahead and add some beds as well as some embrasures and windows. You could also do 1 bed per side and add a large box or a locker. We'll place a turret above the bed pod and then a windmill above that, or a wind turbine if you're a sassy commenter and don't like that I say windmill, because they're not the same. Next, this part is optional, but we can add these ramps on here if you have the build skins. I probably wouldn't do it if I didn't have it though, because they stick through the wall quite a bit. If you don't have the build skins, I would probably just put a horizontal embrasure on these sections instead. And at this point, that is one nice looking base. Y'all really seem to like that I did electricity in the anvils video, so I'm going to keep that up. Before we get to that though, we can also add an additional turret pod here. Just make sure you sheet metal the floor so it's a little bit more annoying to soft side. This turret is grubbable, but honestly, it gives you such good angles that I like having this one as my early game turret, because just 2 turrets cover every bit of the compound. So just a thought. I'm talking to fill space. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Our electricity setup is super simple. Our wind turbine feeds into the input of the battery, and then the output of the battery heads directly to a switch. That switch goes into the first branch here, and then the power out of each branch goes into the next one. We'll set each of these branches to 10 power, and they'll each go out to a turret. The first one goes to this turret, the second one to this turret, the third one to this turret, the fourth one to the roof turret here, and then the 5th one goes to the inside of the base in this triangle. Now, it's always a good idea to wire up the turrets onto the opposite side of the base. So if this battery gets taken out, the turrets on the opposite side are the ones that go down. And at this point, we're completely done. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please drop a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments your favorite part of the base. And I'll catch you in the next one.